path I started us on.
Nothing lasts forever.
There are no strings on me.
Welcome to another review in the MCU Phase 2. I am Dylan Gable, and today we're talking about Avengers: Age of Ultron, released in 2015. This is the second last film in Phase 2, so it's almost done already. Okay, so it stars Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Chris Hemsworth, Samuel L. Jackson, and many more, including James Spader. And it tells the story of Tony Stark as he creates some new AI to try to use for the protection of the world, but it backfires and it creates a new threat named Ultron. Okay, so what do I think of Avengers: Age of Ultron? I like the film, but it is very flawed. This is Joss Whedon's second Avengers film. It's also the last film where he helms the director's chair for the Avengers. And while I will say this movie's a ton of fun, there are some issues here. It's nowhere near as good as the first film. But let's get the positives out of the way first. The entire cast is fucking great as always. Robert Downey Jr., he is phenomenal as Iron Man, as usual. Chris Evans, he's just as good as Captain America here as he was in The Winter Soldier. Everybody's fucking great in here. And they all have great comedic chemistry. They all have great screen presence. They all work together wonderfully. And here's another thing that I will praise the hell out of this movie for. Hawkeye and Black Widow get so much more character development here. They are fleshed out a hell of a lot more than what they've ever have been before. And for that, I really commend this film. This movie has some amazing action. Actually, that's one thing about this movie that I think improves on from the first film. The action is actually better in this film than it was in the first one. The action's more visceral. It's a lot more fast-paced. It hits harder. This movie, all around, the action sequences are phenomenal here. Also, I thought James Spader was fantastic as Ultron. He's very charismatic. There's a lot of good humor from him. He's a very funny villain, and he has a ton of personality. And the thing I love most about Ultron is that he is a legitimate threat. The movie does a phenomenal job at making him into a threat, and you definitely feel the stakes here. And all around, amazing villain. I loved Ultron. And the humor for the most part is hilarious. This movie has some laugh out loud moments, especially a sex joke involving Black Widow and Hulk. That had me dying. It always has me dying every time I see it. It's actually a pretty funny joke. Now, let's get to my issues with the film. I will say, this movie felt like there was stuff missing. This movie apparently was originally going to be 3 hours. And so they had to cut it down to just under 2.5. And it's obvious. It felt like there was stuff missing. That probably explains why Ultron, as good of a villain as he was, he definitely felt a little underutilized. I think there should have been more Ultron, and I think there was. But, because they had to cut so much of the runtime down, it felt like there was stuff missing. And also, the the romance between Hulk and Black Widow. Wow, did that not work? I did not care. I didn't care from when I saw this movie in theaters back in 2015, and I don't care about it now. I never cared about this romance. It is one of the worst written romances ever, and boy, Scarlett Johansson and Mark Ruffalo, they did not have any chemistry with each other. It felt very awkward. And thankfully, this is the only movie in the franchise where that really takes place. It gets abandoned right after. So I'm very thankful for that, because that romance plot sucked. Also, there's a lot of wasted shit here too. Like, Andy Serkis is in this movie. I mean, his character comes back in Black Panther, which we'll get to that later. His character felt so unnecessary in this film. He didn't really provide anything substantial to the plot. He's just there just to introduce his character. It doesn't really go anywhere. And let's talk about Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I like Scarlet Witch, but Quicksilver, on the other hand, no. Evan Peters is a far better Quicksilver. This Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver sucked ass. I did not care when he dies later on in the final act. Spoiler alert, by the way. I felt nothing for his character, and Aaron Taylor Johnson doesn't do anything to make it work either. There's when it comes to characterization, this movie does feel a little bloated in that regard, and there's a lot of wasted opportunities. Now let's talk about the way this movie sets up Thor Ragnarok. It was just there just to be there. That could have been like a post-credit scene or something, but nope, it's like just before the final act. That did not need to be there. That was just there just for the sake of setting up Thor Ragnarok. That's it. Other than that, I think Avengers Age of Ultron is a fine sequel. It gets the job done with the action, the fucking performances, the characters. The villain is great, even though he is a bit underutilized. And like I said, the action sequences are fucking phenomenal. If this movie is worth watching for a few specific things, it's the characters and the action. If that's all you want, this movie fucking excels at that. This movie is fantastic in that regard. And yeah, this is by no means a bad film. It's just very flawed. It's a very, very entertaining film, though. I do recommend it for its entertainment value because this movie is very highly entertaining. I am going to give Avengers Age of Ultron a B. So what did you think of Avengers Age of Ultron? Comment below, let me know. And if you like my stuff, you can like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.